Welcome to Tax Tuesday. This Tax Tuesday is working with the CPA, and I've broken it down into two parts. Part one is some do's and don'ts when working with your CPA for the first time, and part two is you've signed an engagement letter, you've hired your CPA. What are some things that I can do to make this experience the best experience possible for you? So, do's and don'ts for when you first encounter a CPA. Now, some of the things that I'm going to say in this episode are going to sound like I'm kind of ranting, and I kind of am ranting. And what you will learn is that most knowledge-based professionals are going to agree with most of the things that you're going to hear in this episode. Who are knowledge-based professionals? They are professionals that you hire for their knowledge and expertise to get a specific result based upon their knowledge and expertise. This would be lawyers, consultants, and of course, CPAs. So let's start with some things you don't want to do. When you first encounter a CPA for that initial call, you don't want to start with, I just need fill in the blank. Or it's not so distant cousin. My stuff's simple. This really shouldn't take you that long. This is going to be easy. So when I hear this stuff is simple, my stuff is pretty simple, it's not going to take this long. You can feel it in me. It's just, I gotta get my meditation on. I gotta calm down, and then I gotta go back into effective listening mode. And why do I and most professionals get this way when we hear that kind of phrasing? Well, number one, in the 20 years that I've done this, there's only been two instances when someone approached me and has said, this is pretty simple. And it actually has been pretty simple. What has actually happened is when someone said something is simple, it's actually been the most complicated, the most frustrating, it's taken the longest, and been the most unenjoyable experience related to doing anything in the tax and accounting world. It generally isn't simple. Most things are more complicated than you, the client, may know, because you're not the tax professional. You don't really know the laws and the nuances in the laws and all the things behind it. That's why you hire us, so that we can tell you whether something is simple or not, And so you send the wrong signal to the CPA when you start off that way, because your expectations now are already misaligned, and we got to work with realigning your expectations with reality, and we got to do the work. Those two things together, bad combination. They signal to us you're probably going to be a bad client, and probably aren't going to want to work with you, because who wants drama in their business and in their life? What's another thing you don't want to do? You don't want to say, I could probably do this myself. I just need a little bit of help. The signal you're sending there is, I'm really cheap. I don't want to pay you for your knowledge and what you're worth. So I'm going to try to do a workaround so that I don't have to pay you, but I can get the result that I want. You should just pay the CPA to do the work, or you should just do it yourself. We have staff we need to train. We have things we need to do to train ourselves. And for that discounted rate that you're trying to get for us to kind of help you do it, it's not worth it. If we're almost at capacity and we got a bunch of clients, we don't want to do that. We don't want to teach you how to do our job, because we're teaching our staff how to do their job so that they can do that work that you should just give to us. And those situations never end well. There's always some miscommunication. There's always something that goes wrong. CPA doesn't want to, most CPAs don't want to do that. Most good CPAs, we're trying to run our businesses. We're trying to help the clients that want to pay us what we're worth. Don't do that. Don't try to get the CPA to teach you how to do their job. You don't want to lead into the conversation the first time you see your CPA with, I just want to know how much this is going to cost. I'm surprised at how many times I get that just right off the bat. How much is this going to cost me? I don't even know what your specific need is. why don't we talk about what you need? The flag there again is that you're a cheap client, that you don't want to pay us what we're worth. You don't want to pay us. So why would we want to engage and work with you? But look at it from this perspective. You can go to tax professionals that have on their websites their pricing. And there's a couple of things that happen when you encounter that. You're going to see an asterisk next to that price, or what you're going to see is a starting price is this number. Those are marketing techniques. They're to get you in the door, to book the appointment, and then they're going to upsell you to what the actual price is. And you're going to see the price that you want and go in and have that conversation. But then when you actually get into it, they're going to upsell you to what you actually, the actual true price is. But if you do encounter a situation where that price is actually fixed, there's no asterisks, there's no conditions, you need to be very careful about what it says in the contract that you're signing for that price, because the scope is going to be very narrow if there's a fixed price related to that. And inevitably what ends up happening in those situations are there's a narrow scope. So your expectations are over here, but what you contracted for is over here. And then something goes wrong. And now you want to go to the person that you paid because you say they did something wrong. They didn't give you the full picture of what you needed, but you only paid for the narrow scope of things for the specific price. And that's not the professional's fault. That's yours for not taking a holistic approach to your specific situation. Let me give you an example. This just happened. I just talked to a prospective client yesterday. And what I do in my firm is I have two calls. I have a discovery call where I get some basic information from the client. Then I have an interview during that call based upon the information that was getting, and I dig a little deeper so I can get a full picture of what this client's specific needs are. And what happened in that call yesterday was the client went in thinking they needed X. I did some probing because they were open to the process, and it turns out they needed Y. They needed something else more specific and more urgent than what they thought they needed. And this is how crucial it was that we walked through this process. Because had they not gone through this process, they would not have learned from that conversation with me that they had done something in their business that could have gotten them criminally prosecuted in 3 different states. If they just came in saying, I just need X, and weren't open to the process, this holistic process, that would have been missed, and they would have been prosecuted, and then they would have hired a lawyer instead of hiring a CPA to try to get them out of the mess that they created. Because why? They were doing it themselves. They thought they knew and understood it. And something woke them up, and they hired a professional to help them. So you want to approach a CPA and try to get a holistic view of your specific tax profile so that we can try to get all of the issues. Most CPAs want to take a proactive approach. We don't want to just do one little thing. We want to take a proactive approach and help you resolve all of your specific needs. So how do you know that a CPA is blowing you off? How do you know that you've wound up in the bad client, I'm a cheap client zone? Here's a crucial thing to look for. If you book a call with the CPA and you go through that call, and when it's all said and done, the CPA says to you, you know, I really wish I could help you, but I can't. This is outside the scope of what I do. Or, you know, I'm not really taking on any more clients. I thought I could help you, but I really can't. If you hear that kind of message, but here's the key part, and they don't refer you to another CPA, you are probably in the bad client zone. Why is that? Because there is a cardinal rule in our profession. You do not send bad clients to friends. I do not send bad clients to my peers, the people that I work with. We get together and we help each other solve problems and go through all the different laws together, and we do training together. I don't send them bad clients because I would get kicked out of the club, so to speak. Nobody wants anybody else's, bad clients, drama. And so we don't refer the bad clients. So if you're not getting referred to anyone else, that means you're a bad client. You're in that bad client zone, and you're going to need to rehabilitate your approach to approaching CPAs. So what's the formula for approaching a CPA? It's a really simple formula. It's question and then handoff. There's a question and then there's a handoff to the expert. How does that work? It could go something like this. Hey, this is what I think the situation is. Or here are some things that I'm concerned with. I'm wondering if you can help me to solve this particular issue. And if there's anything else you can think of that I may not be considering, can you help me out with that too? So there's a question in there. You're not saying you know what the issue is, and then you're handing off the ability to find the result to the professional. That is the best way to approach CPA. Don't go in with a preconceived notion as to what something is. Don't go in with the conclusion as to what the result is. Take a question to the CPA, then allow them to go through their process and then to give you alternatives to help you resolve your issue. So I want to do one last thing to kind of put this in a deeper and better perspective. So this is your tax return. You are not paying for this piece of paper. Really want that to sink in. You're not paying for this sheet of paper. What you are paying for is the knowledge and expertise that it took to calculate the numbers that landed in the lines and boxes on this tax return. And what is behind the calculations and the numbers that have landed on this tax return is years of experience and knowledge, thousands and thousands of hours of training, thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars in training to get an answer that that professional can stand behind to make sure you got the right result. So you are not paying for this piece of paper. You're paying for the knowledge to interpret the laws and the codes and the rules, no matter how often and how quickly they change, to get you the result that is the best result for you based upon your specific facts and circumstances. So next time we will talk about how to work with your CPA now that you've hired your CPA and signed that engagement letter.